Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Bordertown Strange. I'm Pam, and this is my co-host Jess. Woohoo! And tonight our show is about real-life Final Destination deaths. So if you're not familiar with the franchise, and I see Enzo's in the comments saying that he hasn't watched the movies, but even he knows not to follow a logging truck. Absolutely. I freak out. In fact, honestly, that's before I get into this, that's how we came up with this show tonight is Jess and I were driving back from Kentucky, and we kept getting behind these trucks just loaded down with stuff, and I was like, nope, nope, and I was just like, what are you doing? And I'm like, have you not seen these movies? I no, we're not doing this.
I
And
had not.
she had not, and so I was like, oh, this would be a great show to do. So here we are. And Jess
Yay!
has since watched the first movie.
I did my homework like a good student. It was terribly campy, but the death scenes were kind of cool, so
They
I think it
are
was worth it.
nuts, aren't they?
I think it was
And
worth like
so,
the $3.49 I spent on Amazon Prime to watch it.
ooh, how funny. So, I'll go into it just a little bit about what the movies are about, in case somebody hasn't seen them. If you're not familiar with the franchise, they began actually 25 years ago this year. So they started in March of 2000, and there's 5 films in total, and they follow this group of teens. And when it starts out, there's one that has a premonition of like a freak accident, and it ends up coming true. So all these kids that survive, they all of a sudden realize that they have defied destiny or defied death, and no matter what they do, they are going to meet their demise in the most bizarre manners, brutal manners that you can even dream up. So we've got car crashes, we've got roller coaster malfunctions, we've got plane explosions and workplace accidents, just all kinds of nutty stuff. And again, and I have this written down, who could forget the logging truck? I can't forget it for sure. And what's really cool about the movie, though, is you never actually see death, but it's there. It's everywhere. It's just it's like an invisible foe kind of thing.
Yeah.
Um, So the guy that started this whole franchise, his name is Jeffrey Reddick. He created it, and the way that his flash of inspiration, basically, he had read an article about a woman who changed her flights after her mom was like, she had a vision of it crashing, so it kind of freaked her out. So she goes ahead and changes her flight to something else, and she was right. The mom was right. The plane did crash. So it got Jeffrey Reddick. It got him thinking, hey, what if she had cheated death, and what if that means that she's going to die in some other way, but it's death has to get creative kind of thing. So that's where it all kind of started. Um, and it starts out, we've got a group of college students. They narrowly miss a plane crash, and then after that, I'm not going to go through all the deaths the way they die, because you really need to see it if you haven't. Because Jess is
Yeah.
right; it's totally campy, but it's great.
Yeah, it
Um,
is.
we've got characters. They're being impaled, they're being beheaded, they're chopped, they're sliced, they're diced, they're cauterized, kebabbed, all kinds of crazy stuff. So
Yes.
definitely watch it. Here's, like, I did put this one down. This is an idea of what it's like, and this was in the second movie, I think. There's a fridge magnet, okay, and it falls into a rotating microwave, which causes a fire in the victim's apartment, which causes the microwave and its contents to explode, which causes the victim to grab onto the escape ladder and jump onto the street below, causing him to slip in the pile of noodles that came from the original explosion in the microwave, and then the ladder falls after this and impales him through the eye. So it's crazy, crazy stuff. So some
Yeah.
of them that we're going to talk about tonight, some of them are not quite this crazy, but there are some that have just been absolutely nutters. And you know what? I didn't know this, Jess, and I didn't tell you this
Hmm.
before the show either. They are doing another Final Destination called Final Destination Bloodlines, and it's released in cinemas on the 16th of May this year. I didn't know they were
Oh,
doing another one. They haven't done one in like 13 years.
we should call them up. We're doing like free advertising for them right now. They
Right?
totally owe us some cash. I'm just saying.
It's millions of viewers for sure. Yeah. So
Oh
that's
my
my
goodness.
feel about the movies, though. And I know Jess is going to do a little bit of housekeeping real quick, and then we'll get started.
Yep. All right. General housekeeping. So, as always, a huge thank you to all of our subscribers and followers. We love you so much and appreciate you for joining us every 2 weeks. If you're on Facebook right now, just take a second to like and share. And if you're on YouTube watching, take a moment to hit that thumbs up and hit that bell if you haven't yet, so you know when we're bringing you new content and when we're going live. Excuse me. Also, if you're not going to watch the lives, you can also listen to us on any podcasting platform that you have. We have this new little ad up here for you to see. We're available anywhere where you can listen in at, and our past catalog is completely free and available to you to listen to. So you can go back and listen to us from day one. And I pre-apologize for that first show. It was not great.
Oh, but it is our lore.
It is. So, yeah, go back and listen to the past ones and catch up to now. We appreciate you so much. All right. You want to move to the next one?
Sure. Sorry,
Okay.
I was reading comments.
She's not paying attention. So, we just wanted to throw up some ads for some of the regular stuff that we're doing. We host the Bordertown Paranormal Club once a month. It's every third Saturday of the month, and it is free to anyone. If you are in the Caney, Kansas area, you're welcome to come in 2 p.m. on Saturdays, third Saturday of the month. We talk about everything. We go on field trips. The 19th, I believe it is, we're going to be talking about proper use of equipment. So there's a little bit for everybody. Yep. And of course, coming up in September, we have the 2025 Bordertown Paracon. It's looking to be really great this year. I've already been inundated with new vendors and new speakers. It's going to be awesome. We're already armpit deep in all of it. It's pretty soon for it. We like back in February is when I really started getting inundated with it. I was like, people, give me a breather. But it's going great guns. And then you can flip to the next one. We are still looking. Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's where we're at.
Okay. Well, we are still looking for more vendors and speakers. So if you know somebody who does like artsy, metaphysical kind of vending, books, authors, cryptozoologists, other ghost hunting teams, if you're interested in coming and joining us, contact us here, leave a message behind, and we'll contact you. And because we would love to have all sorts of new people.
Absolutely.
Yep.
And I'm going to flip through our comments here really quick. We've got Ginger is in the chat. Hi, Ginger.
Hey, Ginger.
And Rick, yeah, he won't follow any trucks that look sketchy because of them. Absolutely. And Tony is the same. I don't drive behind a log trailer anymore. Nope, I don't either.
Yeah, I won't now.
And Mike's in the chat. Hi, Mike. I have a feeling there might be dinosaur sightings also. Uh-oh. At the Paracon?
Uh-oh.
Interesting.
Yeah. So before we go to Word of the Week, everybody remember to stick around towards the end so we can play some notebook games. I actually grabbed a 6th notebook, so maybe we'll play 6 notebook games tonight.
Ooh.
So, yeah. Ooh, exciting.
I am excited.
Yeah.
All right. So our What the Weird Word of the Week. I decided to go with necrophobia because it's so perfect for this show. Necrophobia is an intense fear of death, dead bodies, or things associated with death. It comes from the Greek word necro, meaning corpse, and phobos, meaning fear. Someone with necrophobia may fear death, seeing dead things, or being confronted by symbols that remind them of death, such as coffins or cemeteries. That was pretty fitting.
Yeah.
Absolutely. All right. Stop sharing that screen.
It's not to be confused with necrophilia. I'm just
Definitely
it's
not.
Very close. Not the same thing at all.
No, for sure. Don't even want to go there.
No, don't want to.
There's Ian. Hi, Ian.
Hi, Ian.
All right, let me get my other screen up here.
Yeah, so while we're getting our stuff pulled up here, in researching these crazy, crazy ways to die, there was no end to it. We could have researched probably for weeks and just downloaded story after story after story and just could have kept going. So, but we're not going to do that. We're going to do a one and done. This is going to be a one and done show because in 2 weeks we have Pat Fitzhugh of Witch Bell fame coming to chit chat with us for a while, and it's going to be awesome.
Bell Witch.
Yeah, we'll run that at the end. We have a little ad for it so you guys can see like the pre-ad. But yeah, so we're going to talk about some crazy stuff tonight. So warning, if you get queasy, if you get grossed out easily, this may not be the show for you. There's gonna be some yick going on.
Yeah, for sure.
But some funny ones too. Unfortunately, I hate to say anybody's death is funny, but some of them are just plain damn funny. So, do you want to go with the first one?
It's things like, this is going to be how I die. It's going to be something absolutely ridiculous. Yeah. And that's what I'll be remembered for forever. Yeah, I can start with one. So in the movies, and I can't remember which movie it is, but in one of them, someone dies in a tanning bed. And this actually is a true life Final Destination. In November of 2024, 39-year-old Derek Sink was found dead in a tanning bed at a Planet Fitness gym in Indianapolis, Indiana, 3 days after he had entered the facility. His family reported him missing 2 days after he went to the gym, and his aunt stated he was wearing an ankle monitor, which helped the investigators determine that he never actually truly left the gym. So, which this is just crazy. And I remember when this happened, because it was just a few months ago, honestly. But he had visited the gym on Friday, November 8th, and was found dead on the 12th or the 11th? Well, it's 3 days later, regardless. The 10th. No, Sink's family reported him missing Sunday the 10th after last hearing from him Friday, and then he was found the next day and had been in that tanning bed all that time. Yes, Enzo, 3 days later. And he was wearing an ankle monitor. He did have a history of drug abuse, and a needle was reportedly found in the room with him. So I have not heard if they have determined what the actual cause was yet or not. But at the time of this report, the investigation was ongoing. Planet Fitness did put out a statement. They expressed their condolences and emphasized their dedication to the safety of their members. Although the public reacted saying, hello, 3 days? This door was closed on this tanning room for 3 days and nobody bothered to open it, even after they noticed a foul smell coming from there when they would walk into the building. So, I don't know. Pretty gross.
That begs the question, how often were they cleaning?
Right?
Ew!
Yeah.
Yeah, it's terrible.
Totally disgusting.
Oh,
totally
gross.
Disgusting. Rick said he believes that's from the fourth movie. Could be. Like I said, I can't remember. And so, yeah, you might want to stop eating your dinner.
You might. So the one I'm getting ready to tell is like every kid's nightmare at the mall. So July 26, 2015 in Beijing, China, a woman was on the escalator with her son, and there's actual video of it. She was lifting him up because he was scared of the escalator to get him up onto that last step as they were coming up. And unfortunately, the metal panel that she was standing on collapsed underneath of her, and she fell through the gap. The boy got saved. He got up on the platform just as it happened. So it happened to this lady. She was 31 years old, Shang Li Wan. She was struggling to stay where she was at. She was trapped from the chest down with that escalator trying to go. And eventually she fell down through. And unfortunately, it took them 4 hours to get that open to get down into her. But she was already dead. She'd been crushed to death, basically. And then
Goodness.
ripped apart by the mechanism underneath. Right? So they're blaming the fact that apparently this escalator had been broken and malfunctioning for weeks on end and had just been told about it again 30 minutes before the incident happened. And unfortunately, at the time that I got this pulled off the news, this was about a week later, it was being reported on. They reported that they were still using the escalator and had just placed the panel back.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
That is horrifying.
Mm-hmm. So, like, everybody's worst nightmare, your mom always tells you, don't play on the escalator, you'll get sucked in.
Well, yeah. I mean, there's people that have, like their flip-flops gotten caught in it and, their legs got pulled down into it. They didn't die, but they lost a limb.
Yeah.
I ran across tons of those that, I didn't grab because they didn't die, but yeah, they were badly injured.
Yeah. It's
Crazy,
terrible.
crazy. And I was telling Jess behind back in the green room before we started, there was, I don't know how many I ran across that were deaths by being impaled on fences and things like that. It was like they were everywhere. I like
Tony
stairs.
says, I like stairs. Me too.
Mm-hmm. I'm not a fan of escalators. They just freak me out anyway because I always feel like I'm going to, fall off of it basically when I get to the top or the bottom, whichever way. So here's one. A woman impaled at Philadelphia sports complex dies from injuries. So this was in South Philadelphia. This was in 2023, I think. A woman was found unresponsive at the sports complex, hanging from an iron gate near one of the sports bars Saturday morning. The incident happened at South Philadelphia near the stadiums. According to law enforcement, Steve Keeley, this was the talking to Fox 29, Steve Keeley. The 48-year-old woman was climbing a gate near one of the sports bars on Patterson Avenue in the early morning hours, sometime before 2 a.m., and somehow she fell, but couldn't reach the ground and was left dangling for a number of hours. And she was impaled through her leg, apparently. And when they found her, the medics rushed her to her aid, removed her, and transported her to the hospital, where she was pronounced dead at 8:45 Saturday morning. An investigation was underway, although officials say there were no signs of foul play.
Ugh.
Ugh.
Terrible stuff. And we've only just started.
We're only 20 minutes in.
Yeah. So I'm going to do one that's local to us. So this one's out of the Tulsa, Oklahoma area. And this one didn't happen all that long ago. I remember when this happened. I don't think Pam recalled it, but we were talking about it backstage. So this actually happened to one of our local bands called Cliff Diver. It's a punk rock band straight out of Tulsa. And it happened back in May 2023. So they were setting out to perform at a charity show associated with the Punk Rock Bowling Festival in Las Vegas, Friday, May 26. The group departed their home of Tulsa in their brand new tour van they'd just bought. We were probably the most excited we've ever been to be spending the week together and getting back on the road. We had made it almost an hour outside of Tulsa when everything changed in an instant. We were near Stroud, traveling westbound on Interstate 44, when at approximately 11 a.m. there was an enormous boom sound that sounded like a cannon being fired as the entire front of the van filled with glass shards and dust. The driver's side window was shattered, and Rogers, who was driving the van at the time, was knocked unconscious, while front seat passenger Elliot Cooper took hold of the wheel as Rogers' foot remained lodged on the gas pedal. The guitarist notes he was seated behind Rogers and began to shake his bandmate's body as he yelled his name in hopes that he would become conscious again. At this point, we noticed that blood was spewing out of his neck and head region and drenching his body and the surrounding area. he recalled that they were finally able to get his foot off the gas pedal and stop the vehicle to issue first aid, applying pressure to his neck and throat while trying to locate the direction of where the blood was coming from. Once the base's condition was stabilized, the sheriff told the band that a extraordinarily large steel chain link was found lodged in Roger's neck, and that it was likely a semi-truck had been pulling a trailer and had a load-bearing chain strap that had snapped under pressure, launching the chain link across the interstate, through the van window, and straight into Roger's neck. Now, he
Oh,
did survive. This is one of those ones where they didn't die, but it's so close to what the movie shows you that I thought it was quite appropriate for this. It truly happened. So, like, they showed a picture of it, and the chain link was like this, and
oh,
it
that is
just went
nuts.
right into his neck. And the scary part is that it pushed him back into a seat and pinned him there. And when it did that, his legs went straight out and pushed completely against the gas pedal. So they were speeding up and speeding up and speeding up, and they couldn't get his leg off of that pedal until it was almost too late. It took the passenger yanking his leg off the gas pedal and going down underneath and pushing the brake with his own hand. So I can't even imagine with, him squirting everywhere and bleh.
God. You know
Yeah.
what's going to be bad is on YouTube, where they show the preview of your show. Our faces are going to be like,
Yeah, ugh.
oh
Well,
my goodness.
it's perfect for the show, so.
It is. That's true. Okay, so let's look at another one here that I found. Oh, this is one that everybody fears too. Somebody dropping something off of an overpass on you. California
Oh.
grandmother killed in car when brick smashes through window and cops think someone threw it. This lady's name was Margarita Erostico Ruiz of Antioch, California, was killed in front of 3 of her grandchildren. This was in April of 2020. So they were looking, that the cops in this particular one were looking for somebody to turn whoever did this in. But she was 63 years old, and she was killed by a large brick that crashed through the windshield of her grandson's car as the vehicle approached a highway overpass. So yeah, it happened around 9:30 p.m. on a Friday night. And the grandson was driving when this happened, so he saw it all happen. And the grandkids were in the back seat. It says life-saving procedures were attempted but unsuccessful. And tragically, the female passenger was declared deceased at the scene. It was driven by her 20-year-old grandson, and the granddaughters were ages 11 and 13 were in the back seat. No one else was physically harmed. But it was determined that a heavy object came crashing through the right side of the front windshield and struck the 63-year-old female passenger seated in the right front seat. The male driver realized the woman was injured and pulled off the freeway and called 911. And the police just said, at this point, it's unknown where the brick came from or how it ended up in the Volkswagen. The cause of this incident was still under investigation as of this article.
Wow. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's not a fun way to go.
No, and kids are stupid and they do throw stuff off of overpasses, thinking it's funny, but yeah, it could have some really dire consequences.
Yeah. Maybe not throw things over overpasses. You can
Yeah.
spit. Let's just leave it at spitting.
Use this entire show as a what not to do.
Yeah, exactly. So I have another what not to do, but this one is kind of hysterical. So I found one, it's also local, it's from McLeod, Oklahoma, of the deadly atomic wedgie. Dun 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 dun. Yep. So
That one's hard not to laugh at.
December 21st, 2013. Bradley Davis, 34, of McLeod, pleaded guilty to accidentally killing his stepfather with an atomic wedgie. The victim, Denver Lee St. Clair, 58, died after he was strangled by the elastic band of his own blue underwear. Why we need to
God.
know it's blue is
What a way to
beyond me.
go.
Yeah. The band had been pulled over his head from behind. The cloth had ripped away from the band as the underwear was yanked. The victim had also suffered blows to the head. So I actually went and looked up the court case so I could figure out how this worked out. And what ended up happening was they got into an argument and fists were thrown, and the dude hit his stepfather hard enough to knock him out. And in order to embarrass him further, he gave him the atomic wedgie while he was passed out, knowing full well when he woke up, he would be super embarrassed to know that not only did his stepson get the best of him, but gave him a wedgie on the way out. He didn't know that the underwear ripped after he left, and the band came down over his neck and killed him.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Uh, he came back saying he never had any intention of killing him. There's no way I ever thought that would have happened. He did call his stepfather a bully. He said he gave the wedgie so his stepfather would be embarrassed by it after waking up. And he also admitted to taking a picture of it with his cell phone before he left. So yeah, he's doing 15 years, I believe.
Oh, he's lucky that's all he's doing.
Well, because it wasn't, he had no intentions of actually killing him.
Yeah.
He was just,
but he took a picture and everything.
Well, I mean, wedgies are funny, So I would never have guessed that a wedgie could kill someone, but it certainly can.
Ian said, "What brand of underwear is this? I'd like to avoid that."
Unfortunately, we don't get to find that out. I do know they were blue. They were very adamant about the underwear were blue. So
were they just trying to make sure everybody knew they were blue and not pink because it was so embarrassing anyway?
Maybe.
I don't know. That is nuts.
Yeah.
That's an embarrassing way to go. Poor dude.
It is.
Goodness. I guess don't be a bully. Is that the...
That might be a good one.
Yeah. Okay, here's another impalement. This is a Bronx woman impaled on a fence in a freak accident. And this one was from September of 2022. And why do I always get the hard names? I did it to myself. Paulina Necraj. It's Necaj. I'm not sure. So she was age 59. She was hit by a gray Lexus SUV in front of her building. Oh, Enzo, they were fruit of the loom with cornucopia basket.
His death was a Mandela.
So in another line, he woke up going,
yep.
Not sure what happened there. That's funny. Okay, so this was September 10th of 2022. I'll just go with Paulina N. She was 59. She was hit by a gray Lexus SUV in front of her building, 2040 Bronxdale Avenue at 6:30 p.m. on Friday. The car, which jumped the curb, pushed her into a metal fence, sending a spike through her. Ooh. She was taken to the Jacobi Hospital where she died after undergoing surgery. The stay-at-home mom of 3 and grandmother of 1 was on her way to get pizza. She was a good, sweet woman. She was a very good, sweet woman, said the husband. She did not deserve this. She was 4 steps away from her home. The daughter said that her father was upstairs in the family's apartment when the accident happened, and he rushed to the street after hearing a thump. So he came downstairs, and there was a gentleman in the building holding my mother until EMS came and arrived. That's awful. The father, the husband, he was 71, and he knew right away that his wife wasn't going to make it. I'm not going to go into detail because it gets really graphic, kind of. And let's see. Oh, Sal Arobi. This is sad. Sal Arobi, he was 32. He was an Uber driver who lives across the street. He helped get her off the fence and reassured her that she'd be okay. And she said, "Do you think I made it?" And I was like, "Yeah, you can make it. Just stay strong." And he said that she thanked him. And then he felt horrible because he's like, "I feel like I lied to her because she didn't make it. It broke my heart." Yeah, that's a rough one. Yeah, I'm not going to finish reading that one. That was just rough.
It is.
Yeah.
Anne says fruit of the tomb.
good. That's a good one.
Yes, it is.
Thanks for making us laugh after that really sad one I just read.
Yeah, that's a sad one. Okay, I've
That
got a weird
was.
one. I've got a weird kind of one. So, this happened February 2022 in California. There was a six-car accident in Rancho Bernardo, California. That's near San Diego, if anybody wants to know. That's believed to have started with protein powder and a knife. It was early Sunday morning when an unidentified 28-year-old man veered to the right for an unknown reason and hit a parked vehicle and four other cars in the process. After an investigation, police reported the driver was distracted by trying to mix protein powder and water together with a knife while he was driving and lost control. During the crash, the airbag deployed, propelling the knife into the neck of the driver, who later died from his injuries at the local hospital.
Oh my gosh. That's
I
crazy.
There's so many not to do's in that story.
We did say vehicle. We'll probably say
We
it a million
did.
more times tonight.
Most definitely tonight. So enjoy.
Oh my goodness, that's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Imagine shivving yourself with your own airbag because you want some protein mix.
Yeah.
I shouldn't be laughing.
Irony. Irony at its finest. Okay, here's another. Here's a kind of a derp one, actually. East Carolina student dies after falling on fence. This one has a little twist to it, though, and this one's from April of 2013. So, a 21-year-old East Carolina University student has died after he fell from a tree and was impaled on a fence. Police said Jonathan Bennett was walking on a tree branch about 6 feet above the fence when the branch broke about 1 a.m. Wednesday. Authorities say the fence post went through most of Barrett's chest and he was killed almost instantly. Investigators say the tree had fallen on top of the fence, which appeared to have been built to contain debris when an apartment complex nearby was built. He was drinking.
There you
Shocker.
go.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'll do it.
Ah, oh, dude. 21 years old, too. What the hell?
Ugh.
That's sad.
All right. I got a weird one. So, this happened in Lake Pleasant, Arizona back in 1982. This is actually very famous, and it has an entire song written about it. So, some of you may know the story already. A man was killed after damaging a giant saguaro cactus. David Grundum was shooting and poking at a saguaro in an effort to make it fall. An arm of the cactus, weighing 500 pounds, suddenly fell onto him, puncturing his body and crushing him to his car. The trunk of the cactus then fell on him also. Now, saguaro cactuses are extremely heavy. I looked it up. And the largest ones, which this one was, it was about 100 years old, stores up to 6 tons of water.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
That's a lot.
Yeah, so the arm fell off, and then the whole thing just went over on top of him. So if you
want to hear...
a
chance, did he?
No. And it's his own fault for shooting at it and, kicking it and stuff. He kind of had it coming.
Instant karma.
Yeah. But if you're interested, the band The Austin Lounge Lizards actually wrote a song about his death, and it is hilarious. Go look up the lyrics. I went and looked them up, and they're the best. It's an awesome song.
What's the name of the song?
It's called Saguaro by the
Spell
Austin Lounge Lizards. Saguaro.
Okay. I'm going to see if I can find the words.
Yeah, I've got them right here.
Oh, do you?
Yeah. Oh. So, okay, because it's a long song, because they go through the entire story of where he left town to go do this, but I'll read little excerpts of it. So, his name was David Grundum, a noxious little twerp, saw the giant plants as the Clanton Gang and himself as Wyatt Earp. So he drove out to the desert. They wouldn't come to town, and Maricopa County, he vowed to shoot them down. Well, he strode up to the first one, not the largest of the lot, with a lightning move with sidestep and killed him with one shot. And when the smoke had cleared, the cactus had lost that final round. 200 years of nature's work lay splattered on the ground. Because he did, in the storyline, he actually did shoot another one first, and it fell to the side, and he was fine. I'm going to skip through some of this. Blah, 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 blah. He was slightly disadvantaged by the angle of the sun, but after all, the cactus wasn't packing any gun. His finger twitched, he made his move, he drew his guns did bark, and echoed with the laughter as the bullets hit their mark. Well, the giant cactus trembled, then came that warning sound. The mighty arm of justice came hurling towards the ground. And the gunman staggered backwards, he whimpered and he cried. The Sagero crushed him like a bug, and David Grundam died.
Ah, I'm
There's
sorry, but
more
that's
to
funny.
it. It's hilarious. So,
That's
go
funny.
add that one to your playlist.
Ian said, first rule of Cactus Fight Club, don't fight cactus.
Don't fight cactus.
That's true.
Yeah.
Tony say, reincarnated tree hunger into the cactus. Instant karma. Absolutely instant karma.
Yes.
Oh, I didn't know that. And so I know we pulled it up a minute ago, but he said there's a reason it's illegal to mess with them. Yeah.
Yeah, it is illegal.
I'm thinking there might be some Fae involvement there. Killed my house, take you down.
Mm-hmm.
And so that is a great song.
Yeah,
Too
playlist.
funny. Oh my gosh. So I'm going to pull this one up really quick because I thought it was interesting. I kind of went down a rabbit hole on list of accidents involving sports teams as well. And so there's been over 100 accidents worldwide that have killed or seriously injured, all are part of major sports teams. And the whole reason I wanted to talk about this is because it was pretty wild when I brought it up. Let me make the screen bigger so I can read it here. So the first one that's marked on here is 31st of March, 1931. The team was Notre Dame. It was an American football team. And the location was Bazar, Kansas, Bazaar, Kansas. There were 8 fatalities from that team. And the famed football coach, Newt Rockne, was killed when a wooden wing failed. So that was, okay, get the date, 31st of March, 1933, and it was Bazar, Kansas, right? The second one that's noted is the 31st of March, 1933. I said 33 on the first one. It was 31st of March, 1931 was the first one that killed Newt Rockne. The next one is the 31st of March, 1933, and it was the Winnipeg Toilers was the name of and it was a basketball team. It was a private plane, and it crashed in a field attempting a forced landing on a flight from Tulsa in Neodesha, Kansas. What are the odds?
Wow. That is weird.
Isn't that odd? I
That's
just thought it was strange. Yeah. But there's a whole, they go through the whole list of all 100 teams that happened. But these are the very first 2 on the list. And I thought it was interesting. Not only were they 2 years apart and both in Kansas, it was the same exact day of the year.
Yeah.
March 31st. So I don't think I'd get on a plane if I was a team and fly over Kansas on March 31st.
No, bad idea.
Bad idea.
Bad idea. Okay, so the one I'm going to do next is an oldie but a goodie. If you listen to us on The Fringe, you might have heard us tell the story about this particular dog that caused, Desert Fair Skinwalker. Absolutely.
Yeah.
That caused this domino effect of deaths. And this is very Final Destination, like Pam was talking about earlier, like one thing causes the other and that causes the other. It's very reminiscent of that. So October 21st, 1988, a curious and unusual tragedy took the lives of 3 people who had nothing to do with each other on a corner in Buenos Aires, Argentina. Marta Espina, 75, was walking along the avenue when Catchy, a poodle, landed on her head after falling 13 stories from a balcony of a building, immediately killing both her and the dog. A crowd started to quickly gather at the scene. While running across the street to join the onlookers, Edith Sola, 46 years old, was run over by a bus on line 55. During the commotion, a man suffered a heart attack, having witnessed it all, and he died shortly thereafter in the ambulance en route to the hospital. So it literally happened all within a minute of each other.
Boom,
Just
boom,
bam, bam,
boom.
bam.
Yeah. It's
Yeah,
crazy.
it is.
So don't be a looky-loo.
Yeah. And I believe it all started out, it wasn't in the story that I pulled, but I believe it all started off because the dog's owner was a young boy, a toddler, and I think he rolled a ball out and it went out through the patio door, and they were up how many stories? 13 stories, and the
Yeah,
ball went over and the dog went with it.
I think you're right.
Dog plummets, hits the lady in the head, kills them both instantly. Lady running across the street to see what's up gets hit by the bus, and the dude behind her has a massive heart attack from seeing it all and kicks it in the ambulance.
Yep. That's crazy.
Yep.
What are the odds?
It's insane.
I mean, if you saw that in a movie, you'd be like, there's no way. That's not
Yeah.
real. But it's real life. It's not even
It's
in a
real
movie.
life.
That was real life. Dang. What is the movie? I'm blanking on the name of it. Brad Pitt played Death.
Oh. Yeah, I know which one you're talking about. I'm not sure the name of
I
it,
can't
though.
remember the name of it. But that just reminds me of that scene where he's standing in the street and that car or bus, I think it's a bus, takes him out. And it's just like,
Yeah.
what?
Yeah, I know that movie. I can't remember the name of it. That's older, though. I think that came out like the 90s or something.
It did. It came out a long time ago.
Yeah.
Enzo said, was this death or was this dog Wile E. Coyote? Sounds like it, doesn't it?
No, because he died. Wile E. Coyote doesn't die. He would have just
Oh,
got
that's
up like
true.
an accordion with a little sign that said oops or something.
Walked
Yeah.
off. Ian said death by poodle is not an honorable death. King Theoden would be embarrassed. Yes, he would
Oh,
be.
that's terrible.
Oh my goodness, that's funny. So I found this article and I thought it was pretty cool. It's a couple of years old, but it's actually a law firm out of LA. And their actual name is Downtown LA Law. Um, and I thought it was cool because
Meet Joe
they,
Black.
oh, that's it. Yes, Meet Joe Black. Thank you. That would have
Thank you,
bothered me.
Rick.
Thank you, Rick. Um, so just but ahead of the franchise's 22nd anniversary 3 years ago, they analyzed data from more than 300,000 ER visits and the 5 movies to discover the most common final destination injuries that are
Oh.
experienced in real life by Americans. And it says, hint, you might want to be a little extra cautious around the ladder in your garage.
Mm.
So let's see. Exactly 4,162 people were reported to have sustained an injury from a ladder since 2019 in the US. And that's just between 2019 and 2022. So, oh,
Well, that makes
that's
sense,
a
though.
lot.
It is. But it makes sense. I mean, a ladder is the easiest thing to mess up on, and
Mhm.
everybody has one. Or mostly everyone.
That's true. That is true.
Yeah.
So, okay, so you've got the ladder related injury, okay, and that follows Final Destination 2, where the guy's eye gets gouged out by a falling fire escape ladder. And
Ew.
then you've got the number 2 most biggest injury is the one that I've been talking about the most, which is scaling or moving fences, which is 2,121. And in Final Destination 5, the guy gets cut in half by a metal fence. And then number 3 is lifting weights. So between, what did I say, 2019 and 2022, 930 deaths by lifting weights. They were crushed by them. And then number 4 is being scalded with oil. 335 deaths in that time. And the number 5 is lawnmower accidents. There's been 229 between 2019 and 2022. And in Final Destination, a rock gets shot through the eye socket. This guy gets shot through the eye socket by a lawnmower. That's
Yeah.
crazy.
Blech.
The number 6, there's your escalator malfunctions or trips. There have been 211 people caught and killed in escalator gears. That's a lot.
That is a lot.
That's a disturbing number.
I
And
might
number
be taking
seven
the
is,
stairs.
yeah, shot with a nail gun. 160 people have died from being shot by a nail gun. Number 8, roller coaster accidents. There have been 14. Um, and that's again between 2019 and 2022. And then barbecue birds. There's been 10 from barbecues exploding.
Mm-hmm.
And I know I've seen a lot of people that have been seriously injured, but there's actually been 10 deaths. And then the tanning bed burns. There was one as of 2022. Now there's been 2 that we know of because this other one just happened last year. In Final Destination 3, the tanning bed actually sets on fire. So, ooh. It says our research also revealed that explosions were the most common cause of death in the Final Destination films, with 398 casualties, while falling was the most common cause for injury in the United States since 2019, accounting for 125,821 injuries.
Oh my gosh.
Jeez, that's crazy.
Enzo wants to know, does that include deep frying turkeys? I would say that would
Probably.
be one of the number one things.
I would agree. They don't specify that one, but yeah.
Yeah, I'm
And
pretty sure that
lawnmowers are
was.
awful with throwing debris into people. Yes, they
They
are.
are. Yeah.
One of my friends, her dad, he was mowing and he mowed over a piece of random wire that was laying in their yard. It was about that long, and it was very thin. It was like thinner than a wire coat hanger, and it went completely through his leg
Oh.
and clear
Ugh.
out the other side. Yeah. Eddie Johnson, probably knowing or knew.
Yeah.
Yeah, it happened to
Goodness.
him.
All right.
Death by barbecue is American distilled. Correct.
Yes.
It all starts out with hold my beer.
All right. So I have one that happened back in 2013. Um, and this story just keeps getting worse. This is terrible. This happened in Sainer, Florida, in March 2013. A sinkhole suddenly opened underneath a home on Faithway Drive, swallowing Jeffrey Bush, who was asleep in his bedroom. His brother Jeremy Bush said he desperately tried to save him but was not able to, and the crews that came in to work it never recovered his body. It was too deep.
Yeah.
He said, I opened up the door and there was a big hole there. His bed and dresser and everything was just gone. He was gone. I jumped in the hole immediately and started digging because I could hear him yelling for me. The Bush's home and 2 neighboring homes were demolished, and the hole was simply filled in because they couldn't ever recover anything out of it. It was too deep.
That's horrible.
Loved ones placed a memorial at the edge of the fenced-off property, hoping closure would come in time. But unfortunately, since then, the sinkhole has actually opened up twice more, and each time all they could do was backfill it in more, knowing that their loved one is down there.
That's awful.
It is. Sorry to bring the room down, guys.
Yeah, that's awful. There was one, I didn't add it on here, but I just saw a video of it the other day, and it's a sinkhole opening up in the middle of a road. And you see a truck just get out of it. You know, it's like a, I don't know, not a semi, but maybe like a smaller version of a semi.
Mm-hmm.
And you see it, they gun it, and so they get the back wheels out of it, but there's a guy on a motorcycle right behind him, and you see him stick his legs out. He's trying to stop. He goes right down in it.
Oh,
and
no.
Yeah, he died.
Oh,
Yeah.
that stinks.
Those sinkholes are terrible, and those are scary because those just open up.
Yeah,
wherever.
You never know where it's going to happen.
No, there was, so we're not too far from Galena, Kansas. It's between us and the Missouri state line. And I remember in the 90s, there was there's a Sonic drive-in right there on the highway. And right in front of it, a huge sinkhole opened. And they had to fix it because, I mean, it was the highway. They had to fix it. But that is a big issue with the area in Galena because they were so undermined. It was a huge mining community for many, many years. And when they closed the mine shafts, the ceilings and stuff were just shored up with like railroad ties and logs and things
Wood.
like that.
Yeah.
Wood, yeah, and it's starting to rot as these get older. And I know, I want to say about 10 years ago, one of the buildings downtown collapsed into an
Mm-hmm.
old mine shaft.
Yep.
Wouldn't definitely want to live there. My
Mm.
grandparents used to live there, my step grandparents. A little scary.
Yep. But Moss Steffelbeck's gold and riches might be buried there somewhere.
That's true. Mm.
Yep.
There's all kinds of
Our,
stuff.
yeah. Um, let's see here. Do you want me to do another story? Or you want to do one?
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay. So this one's an old one. Some of the older ones were pretty campy and silly, but I kind of like this one because it's this dude's still kind of around in a way. So this happened at the Austria-Germany border back in the 16th century. This man named Hans Steininger was actually the mayor of that little town, and he was extraordinarily famous for his super long beard. And unfortunately, in 1567, he met his end because of his beard. On September 28th, there was a huge fire in town that caused panic all over the place. People were screaming and yelling, there's fire, everybody get out of your houses and blah blah blah. He goes running. Now usually they said that he would keep his beard kind of like rolled or folded up and then tucked into a pocket on the front of his shirt, but he was just at home just being lazy, so it was completely out. And in the panic, he goes running around trying to figure out what to do, and he goes to his stairs to go downstairs and get out of his house, and he trips on his own beard, tumbles down the stairs, and breaks his neck at the bottom of it.
Good
His house
grief.
never even burnt. That the fire was never even anywhere near his house. He would have been perfectly fine, but he took himself out. So, however, this gentleman was so beloved and his beard was so beloved that when they buried him, they didn't bury him with his beard. They took the beard off and they put it in the local museum so people could come and see it. And it's still there today. It's 450 years old, but you can go and see his beard today if you wanted. It's currently on display at the District Museum in Hertzberg in Brunau, right there on the Austrian border.
That's
So you can just go.
crazy.
Yeah.
Gives all new meaning to let your hair down while you're at home.
Yep. Could you imagine that guy just running around all crazy like trying to figure out what to do, trips over his beard, falls down the stairs? It's kind of funny.
Enzo wins. ZZ Trip.
Winner.
That is hilarious.
Yeah.
I
think it's been long enough we can giggle and not feel bad.
Right.
Yeah.
Ian posted this about the other one that we were talking about. He said sinkholes tend to occur in areas with limestone bedrock. That's why Florida is so susceptible. You are correct. Yes. Crazy.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Okay. I was listening to that. I don't have my next one pulled up. Hang on. Sorry about that.
It's all right. It's an easy breezy show. We'll roast some people out for the fun of it.
Okay,
Hope
so
you all
here
are
is
enjoying it.
our gratuitous man dies after being impaled by a log in a truck crash. Yes, this was from October 2024, so this was relatively recent, within the last year. Columbus County, North Carolina. A man was impaled by a log during a traffic accident in North Carolina Wednesday. The crash happened on NC 87 near the International Paper Mill. According to the Acme Delco Ridgelwood, I don't know, fire department, a log truck turning to enter the paper mill was hit in the rear by a box truck from Fayetteville. A log 3 inches in diameter then impaled the driver of the truck, going into their left stomach area. Extrication crews had to cut the log off with a chainsaw, cut the roof off, and peel it back to allow the pit to be removed. And the driver was taken to the hospital where he unfortunately did succumb to his injuries.
Oh.
Yeah.
E.
No. Never
No.
drive behind. Nope. Nope, nope,
Nope,
nope.
nope, nope.
Nope, 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 nope.
Ugh. Terrible.
That one's awful.
Okay.
Yeah.
I have another vehicle one you can take a drink in. On
Woohoo.
September 14th, 1927, a famous dancer, she was actually a famous dancer from Nice, France. Her name was Isadora Duncan. Uh, she was a passenger in a brand new convertible sports car that she was learning how to drive. And as she leaned back in her seat to enjoy the sea breeze, her enormous red scarf somehow blew into the well of the rear wheel on the passenger side, and it wound around the axle, tightening around Duncan's neck, and dragged her from the car and onto the cobblestone street, where she died instantly. So she was wearing a long ass scarf, and it was flapping outside of the car, got tangled in the rear axle, and it just ganked her right out of that car.
Dang. You know what
Oh.
that makes me think of? Okay, so there's a book that we refer to relatively often, especially when it comes to local things. It's Tragedies of the Osage Hills.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and one of the stories in there, I'm sure you remember this, Jess, talks about a lady that was out riding in just, it wasn't a wagon. What are the little, um, it's like a two-wheeled cart. It's not a cart, but it's like a fancy wagon, like you would
Okay.
take to church or whatever, you know. She was riding in it and she was driving it, and she had a dress that had, I think the hat had a long piece that trailed out. And it scared the horse, the piece that was fluttering off her hat. So the horse takes
Mm-hmm.
off running. And in the process, the lady falls off, and a part of her clothing gets hung up in the wheel, and she gets drugged for miles and miles. And by
Oh.
the time they find her, she's drugged to pieces, basically. There's not much left of her. But yeah, that reminds me of that.
Yeah.
Stupid scarves.
Stupid scarves. Well, I mean, this lady was nutty anyway, so the story doesn't actually even begin there. She actually had a bad history with vehicles, and why the hell she was climbing in one in the first place is beyond me. So, in 1913, so this would this her death happened in 1927. So in 1913, her two small children drowned when the car they were riding in plunged over a bridge into the river at Paris. And then Duncan herself was seriously injured in car accidents in 1913 and then again in 1924.
Dang.
So this is like real life Final Destination. Death was like, I'm going to get you, lady. I'm just going to keep trying until I get this
Yep.
done. Holy cow.
There's a man, I don't have it in front of me, that pretty much happened to him, where he I want to say he was on a ship, and the ship sank. He got on another ship, it sank. He survived that, and then he was taking public transportation. He was on a bus, the bus crashes, he survives, you know,
Mm-hmm.
and then he ends up getting killed in a car accident where he was the one that was driving eventually. But it's like 6 or 7, you know, mishaps down. It's like, dude, you're killing people. Stay off public
Yeah.
transport. I got to look at some of our comments here. So
Okay.
back to the logging thing. Ian said he logged out. That's pretty good. And Tony, yes, that was a pram cart. You're correct. That's the word I could not think of, or a sulky. Yeah. Yep, sulky cart.
Ah.
You guys are right. Thank you for jumping in.
See,
Okay,
that's why we keep you guys around.
absolutely. Because you know we can't. My brain's cooked. I can't ever remember things. Ginger actually sent this one, and it was a local story. We have Caney Valley Speedway. It's just outside of town to the west of Caney. And there was a stock car driver, and he was using an illegal seat belt. He was using chains instead of a seat belt, and he wrecked. He went up over the edge, and when he did, it cut his head off. It decapitated him. And I'm glad you brought that up, Ginger. I had forgotten about that story, but my dad was the ambulance driver that night when that happened.
Oh,
Yeah,
no.
yeah. And I remember that car. or the ambulance, because it was the old fashioned one that Ghostbusters used, that they made Echo
Yeah.
one, it
Yeah.
was the same kind of ambulance. And I remember
Oh,
it was
wow.
parked at our house when he didn't have it at the racetrack. Yeah, that was crazy. I want to say that was probably the late 70s when that happened. I know I was alive, so it had to be within my memory. So it would have been probably mid to late 70s.
Yeah. Enzo says no matter what channel you go to, the chat is always right. Is that true? I don't know. It is on our channels, I guess.
Right.
Yeah.
So thank you for telling me that, Ginger. I'd forgotten about that one.
Yeah. All right. Let's see here. Oh, I have a little short one. This one's weird. Uh, Santiago Alvarado, 24, was killed in Lompoc, California after he fell face first through the ceiling of a bicycle shop he was burglarizing. Death was caused with a long flashlight he had placed in his mouth to keep his hands free, lodged in his throat, severing his second vertebrae from his neck. It's
Oh,
believed he died instantly from the injury. So he was holding the flashlight in his mouth so he could scurry around up in the ceiling, and the ceiling broke through, and he fell through face first. And
oh my gosh. That's
yeah,
crazy.
that one I might call karma. I'm just saying,
That's
maybe.
nutty.
Yeah, maybe he shouldn't have been burglarizing people.
Yeah, for sure. Back to that one I was talking about with the racetrack, Ginger just posted that her husband, John, his dad was the record driver. He did an upturn and dumped the boys off in the pits when he saw it. I bet he did. I'm glad he did. That would have been traumatizing for
Yeah.
sure. Goodness. That is nutso.
Yeah.
Okay, let me.
For those of you at home, while Pam's pulling up her next story, Caney, well known for its extraordinary high strangeness, is also home to one of the most favored dirt tracks in our area for racing. And all of us, if you grew up at Caney at any time, at some point or another, you worked, hung out, or just watched the races Saturday nights, and they're still going on today. So that's why Pam was just kind of flippantly talking about the racetrack, because it's all kind of a part of our lives.
Yeah.
I grew up at the racetrack because my best friend's dad, who was a police officer, also raced every weekend, and I lived in the pits every weekend. And the greatest fun was once in a while we would take a turn going out on the with the pace car while
Yeah.
they were waiting for stuff to happen, waving at the crowd. I'm so cool. Not really. But yeah, or all of if you lived in Caney at any time, you've been to the racetracks here. That's what you do.
And back in the day, I mean, my dad and his best friend and their family, well, my mom and dad and then their best friends, they were all best friends. They purchased the racetrack together and owned it for a few years. And so we always were working in some capacity out there. And I can remember, we would sit up in the grandstand, up in the announcer's booth and help count laps. So basically, you had to stare. There was like a flagpole right in front of us. You had to stare at that pole and handwrite. This was way back before computers, and handwrite the number of every car that was going by in the order that they were passing in front of that pole. And that's how we determined who won. I'm
Yeah.
sure it's different now, but yeah. So we would have like this whole, and your line you wouldn't be looking at it, so you'd start writing here, and you do this after a while. But yeah, and running
Yeah.
those all the time. That was fun. It's good
Heck
times.
yeah.
Good times. Okay, let me see what else I got. I got pulled back into your story and forgot to pull up my next one.
That's all right.
So this is one that Jess and I were talking about a few days ago, actually. This is another local one, and it's from either the late 1800s or the early 1900s. And I could not find it. I know there's an obituary on this kid. That's how I found it in the first place. We were at the Historical Society reading different um, obituaries. Sounds kind of weird, but basically we had books of obituaries, and you could just flip through them at any time. And this one caught my eye. This kid, he was pretty young. I want to say he was about 16 at the time. and they had been out haying. And, so back in the day, you didn't have vehicles. You used the old hay wagons and the mules or the horses or whatever. And he was up on top of the hay wagon, and he was getting ready to come down to eat. I think they were getting ready to eat lunch or something. But he goes and he slides off the side of the hay, and he impales himself on a hay rake that is leaned up against the wagon, and it goes directly through his behind and clear up. So it tore through everything, which is
Mm-hmm.
terrible. Can't imagine. And he did die the next day. I'm I I feel so bad for him because that had to been horrible.
Oh yeah,
You know,
I can't imagine.
Me either.
We,
And he was probably conscious through that up until he died. That's a terrible one.
it is.
I would like to find that again. I hate that I couldn't find the info on it.
It's gotta. We have a copy of it. It's somewhere.
We
It's all
do.
of our stuff. It's
Yeah,
somewhere. It's just
we
been
do.
so long. It's been lost to a folder somewhere. We
That's from
haven't
like
searched in a while.
2012 or 2013, probably, when we grabbed that
Yeah,
one. So,
probably. All right. So on to my next one. When because it was kind of Pam's idea to do this particular show. She's like, "Oh, we should totally do that." I was trying to think like right off the top of my head like weird freaky deaths that occurred, and I remembered one. I'm sure you all at home remember, or if you don't remember, go take a look. There was a show on TV for quite a long time that was called 1000 Ways to Die.
yes.
Yeah. And it was basically a super campy show. They did it up so campy in little segments, but they would like retell the story of these extreme deaths, but make them look absolutely comical and ridiculous. And the one that always stuck out with me was the guy that ended up in the industrial sized dryer. Right? So I went to go find it, and in my research to find it, I found the story, and it is true. I actually found out that a second one happened, or I should say the first one, because the one that I saw on the TV show was actually the second happening of it. The first one happened in Tulsa, just to the south of us. So I'm going to tell them both. So, Tulsa, Oklahoma, March 2007, Elazar Torres Gomez, 46, who was working for Cintas, the country's largest laundry company. He had climbed onto a moving conveyor belt to dislodge a pile of clothes being fed into the dryer. He became entangled and was pulled in where the temperature was in excess of 300 degrees, and he was tumbled to death before the machine could be shut off. 5 years later, close to the same thing happened. A second Cintas employee who was in Louisville, Kentucky, was killed October 28th while servicing an industrial dryer at the company's facility in the Louisville area. The local coroner has ruled that Burgess died of blunt force trauma. Uh, he reportedly came in early that morning to service the dryer, and a coworker discovered his body inside the dryer after it apparently started up while he was working on it. How the dryer started with Burgess inside is unknown. So he wasn't even in there long enough for it to heat up. It literally kicked on, and those giant dryers, it tumbled him to death,
Oh,
basically.
dang.
Yeah. I actually went and kind of looked it up and found some of the paperwork on it. They never did figure out how the machine started up. It had safety devices so that if you were going to open the door and go in, it couldn't be kicked back on again without the door being reshut and everything locked down for it to start. So he literally walked in and it just went. And they still don't know why.
That's crazy.
Yeah. Blech. Imagine getting dried to death.
No, but I can tell you this. It was Christmas Day, and it was in the 80s, and my friend Shelly, they lived out at the Foot Farm, which was a farm just south on the south side of Caney. Um, and their washer and dryer was out on like in the mudroom, so it was away from the
Mm-hmm.
house. It was like walked in into the mudroom and then into the kitchen and then through the dining room and then into the living room. So everyone's in the living room celebrating Christmas, right? Well,
Mm-hmm.
the mom had gone and thrown some laundry in, and she'd thrown it in the dryer and then went to celebrate. Unbeknownst to her, the family cat was in the dryer.
Oh
It's horrible,
no.
horrible. On Christmas Day too.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh.
So not
Final
only do
destination
you
for the cat.
for the cat, yeah. So not only do you lose the family pet and all the clothes, you also have to replace the dryer too because ew.
In says tumble dried, tumble died.
Y'all are on it tonight. Top of your game. Nice.
Yes, let me tell you.
How funny. Okay. Did you have? Was there another one hooked with that, or did you get them both?
No, I got them both.
Okay, cool. Okay, so staying with my theme of accidentally impaling yourself on things, um, this one was an intentional, actually. I don't know how you. I don't know where I was going with that because this really isn't quite the same. Okay, so there's this guy, and his name. They have his name listed as Lucky Levinson, who was very
Oh.
unlucky, actually. He who, after being in prison, wanted to celebrate by getting drunk, driving an SUV, and hiring the services of a sex worker. So
Ooh.
Lucky gets pulled over by a policeman, and in a panic, oh, okay, I'm reading this. I can't remember it. I'm like, oh no. In a panic, he shoves a pepper spray can into his behind, since getting caught in possession of one is a violation of his parole. But he was drunk, right? So he gives attitude to the officer, who pushes him against the car, which activates the can inside of him and kills him.
Oh. Oh no.
I thought that one was freaking hilarious.
That is. Yeah. That's good
Right?
stuff. That's good stuff. Yeah. Oh my goodness.
These
Okay,
are
okay.
wild.
Yeah. The next one I'm going to tell. So, this is kind of a naughty one. And I warned Pam about this backstage. So, if you are currently watching or listening to this right now and you have a little one with you, have them excused to their bedrooms or go off and play or just turn us down low for like 5 minutes because this one's pretty naughty. So, go. All right. This one, and I went and double checked it just to make sure it wasn't made up, and it is absolutely true. You can find the paperwork on it. This happened at the Condor Club. It's an infamous bar in San Francisco. It's known for breaking sexual boundaries, I suppose. It started off as the world's first topless bar in 1964. Um, the customs are maintained to this day with striptease, lap and pole dancing, and nearly naked hostesses, and naughty drink names. Their favorite one is called Sex on the Piano, which is actually named after the incident that I'm getting ready to tell you about. Because this place is still open and they actually serve this drink. So one night after this bar had closed, a bouncer was having sex with his girlfriend on top of the piano. It was a white baby grand. It's still there, by the way, which has been the top attraction for decades.
Oh,
It's
no.
rigged to rise to the ceiling and also descend from it with a hydraulic motor. So it like makes its big entrance and then it goes back up into the ceiling to get up out of the way so the stage is clear for the girls. So they're having fun time on top of this piano, and in the heat of passion, the couple accidentally hit the up switch on the piano, which went unnoticed until it was too late. The bouncer who was on top died of asphyxiation, but his girlfriend survived, pinned underneath of him all night until the next morning when she was found by a janitor. And still, it took them 3 hours to get the rigging apart to get them out of the ceiling. So she went all like Gerald's Game style and was stuck under her dead
No.
boyfriend, the
Oh,
bouncer.
no. That's terrible.
It is. But this place is still open. the Condor Club, and you can go
Piano
and
is
get
still
their.
there.
The piano is still there. You can go and get their famous drink, Sex on the Piano.
Oh, Are you serious?
Yep, it's their most famous drink. All right, I'm done with the naughty talk for all you at
That's
home with kids listening.
terrible. Oh my goodness. And Mike, I don't know if you're still in the chat, but when she was talking about that one, it reminded me of a story that I think you had told us. And I'm not going to say where I think it was because it's local, but there was a gentleman that was working to fix a. Oh, that's good. Ian said a grand exit. No joke. So there's a gentleman, he's working on the elevator and he's up on top of it in the elevator shaft. And for some reason, and I don't remember the reason, the elevator was turned on and he was stuck on top of it and was crushed up in the top. And I know I have heard of other stories like that too, so he's not alone. But Mike, let me know if you're still here, if that was the building that I think it was in, um, or not. But yeah, those are terrible.
Yeah, I actually have a couple of elevator ones. I can
Do
tell.
you?
Yeah. Let me see if I can find them here. I don't have a ton left. Um, a Dr. Hitoshi Nikado, a doctor at Christian St. Joseph Hospital in Houston, Texas, was stepping onto a hospital elevator. The doors closed too early and pinned his shoulders. The safety system that prevents elevator doors from trapping passengers failed, and as the elevator ascended, his body went one way and his head went the other, and he was
Oh,
killed. Yeah.
goodness. That's terrible.
Yeah. And the second one I have is even worse. And this one is, you couldn't even imagine it. So they drowned in the elevator.
Oh, no. That's
Yeah.
terrible.
So this happened, this wasn't that long ago. This happened in Tel Aviv in 2020. Dean Shoshani and Stav Harari, both 25, died in a building in the neighborhood of Hadvika in the Israel city of Tel Aviv on the western coast of Israel during recent floods in the city. The pair were trapped in the elevator leading to the building's parking area after an electricity fault. While trapped inside, heavy rain flooded the parking level and began to leak into the lift, slowly filling it. A passing neighbor heard them banging on the door from inside and called emergency services, who took hours to arrive.
Oh,
Emergency services eventually used scuba gear to get to the victims, sawing through the roof of the lift to reach the pair. The couple were ambulanced out, but pronounced dead at separate hospitals. So they were literally just leaving for the day, went down the elevator to go get to their car. The elevator died right before it hit the parking level, and it was flooding at the time, and they didn't know it, and the water started to seep in, and they drowned to
oh,
death.
dang. That's
Stuck in an
terrible.
elevator. Yeah.
Yeah, that's horrible.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm. You know, that makes me think of, and I know it's nothing the same. I think it's because of the elevator aspect. And I can't remember the name of the hotel. Jess, you might remember it.
Hmm.
It's the girl that ends up in the water tank,
Oh, yeah, I don't know the name of the hospital, but I know the story you're
the
talking
hotel.
about.
Yeah,
The
I can't
girl who had
remember it.
the nutty
Yeah,
footage
she
of
was,
her in and out of the elevator, and then later
yes.
on they found her body in the tank that didn't even have a door to it
Yeah,
on top of the
completely
building
enclosed. Yep.
that fed the water down into the building. People were complaining because their water tasted and
Tasted
smelled
funny.
funky.
Ugh.
Ooh. It's gross.
Yeah, that makes me think of that. Goodness. So gross. Okay,
Mm.
here's a short one here. And everybody might remember this one because it was so crazy. So this guy's name was Gary Hoy. Um, and I can't remember what floor his office was on, but he was always impressed with the sturdiness of his office windows. So he thought it was great fun to run full speed at them and bounce off of them in front of people. And he did this apparently one too many times because he ran full speed at it, went to bounce off of it, and it shattered and he propelled him right through it, and he fell to his death.
Oh my
His name is
God.
Gary Hoy. Oh, Gary.
Ahoy.
Ahoy.
Oh no. I have a short one. I actually had never heard of this one before, and I'm surprised I hadn't. So, this happened back September 3rd, 2010, in Devon, England. The founding member, one of the founding members of the British rock band ELO, Electric Light Orchestra, Mike Edwards, died in a freak accident after an 882-pound bale of hay rolled out of a field and crushed his van. Edwards died when the bale careened 60 feet down a sloping field, flipped over a 15-foot hedge, and smashed straight into the roof of his van on a rural road. He suffered severe head injuries, including deep lacerations to his face, hemorrhaging to the brain, and a fractured jaw. Can you imagine that? It was a
No.
gigantic hay bale just out of nowhere, comes rolling out of a field, hops a 15-foot fence, and smashes you down. Somebody wants
Holy
you dead.
cow. No joke. Dang. Who
Mm-hmm.
did you piss off?
It's terrible.
Ugh. So here's one. So this one's weird. So and it's really sad. There's a couple, they're on their way to Las Vegas, right? And they stop at a rest stop, and they have a video camera with them, and they're messing with it when they hear somebody scream. So they look, and there's been an accident on the other side of the street, and they run over there to see what's happening. And they see this poor guy. His name's Frank Soriani. He's literally cut in half, but he's still breathing. He was working under his vehicle when an 18-wheeler semi truck ran over him, and it separated his lower body from his upper body.
Oh.
And yeah, and which is crazy. And I just can't believe this part. It says, unfortunately for Frank, the two halves of him were sent to two different hospitals, not allowing for medics to save him.
What
Surely
the
that can't be
hell?
true. I know, right? That is nutso.
My goodness.
Yes.
Ian says kids usually set fire to them before they push them down a hill these days. He's talking about the hay bales.
Yes.
Yeah, that I don't think the fire would have helped anything.
No. Definitely not. But
Would have
yeah,
been more spectacular looking, I would suppose.
that's true. And I was trying to find this one. So it's a girl and a guy, and she has a very narrow escape with death. And and I can't remember. I want to say her boyfriend had warned her not to get on something, public transport or something, that it wasn't a good idea to do that day. And she didn't. And something happens, and everyone on it dies, and she wasn't there. So 5 days later, she's in a vehicle with her boyfriend, and he is driving, and they get into a horrific accident, and she dies. He lives, but she dies just 5 days later.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Huh. Crazy.
That
This
is
stuff is so crazy. Okay, oh, I have a good one. I have a good one where this dude kind of had it coming. So, and it's extremely Final Destination. Like he skips death and then it gets him anyway. So, Michael Anderson Godwin, a convicted murderer, unwittingly saved taxpayers a great deal of money at a Columbia, South Carolina correctional facility in 1989. After having his death sentence overturned on appeal, he settled into his new reality as a lifer. As he was only 28 at the time, he would more likely have been there for many years to come. One fateful day, he attempted to repair a set of earphones that was connected to his television. He bit down on one of the earphone wires while sitting on the steel toilet in his prison cell. This turned out to be a deadly combination. The same prisoner who initially escaped the electric chair unintentionally carried out his own death sentence by electrocution.
wow.
He fried himself with a pair of headphones sitting on his steel toilet.
Sitting on the potty. What a way to go.
Oh, I kind of deserve
That's
it.
nuts. Oh my
Yeah.
goodness.
Yeah,
That
I thought
is
that was a good one.
that is a good one. Okay, I'm running out. I'm down to my last one here.
Well, go for it. And I have a good handful more, so we can carry it
Okay,
through till
good.
notebook games. Yeah.
Good deal. Okay, so this is a very local one. Katie used to have a drive-in theater, and it was just east of town a little bit. And the way it was set up, uh, it's still, I mean, the field's still there where it was, but when you leave Caney, you go east, and then there's a curve that goes around this edge and then goes straight north. And the drive-in theater set right in that field at that curve.
Mm-hmm.
So there was a guy and a girl. They were actually from Wayside, which is a very small town near Caney. Their names were Clint and Debbie, and I'm not going to say their last names on here. Um, but they had had a fight, and they had broken up at the drive-in, and each one was in a different car, and they were coming at each other going around that curve, and they hit head on, and both of them were killed that night. And I was trying to find the exact date of it. I want to say it's either going to be the late 60s or early 70s. But that was one of the
Mm.
craziest ones that that I know of that happened in our town. Really
Crazy
sad one
stuff.
too.
It
Yeah.
is.
But we have people,
Uh,
we have a little group called, you're from Caney if, and someone had put in there, it's been like 13 years ago, I think. Hey, does anybody remember Clint and Debbie? What happened to them? And somebody else jumped in, and yeah, they had a fight and broke up, and they collided at the curve, and both of them died. It's just crazy.
it is crazy.
Hmm.
Goodness.
Yeah. Oh, Tony. Talking about the guy that
What
died on the
what a
toilet. What a
shocker.
shocker.
In says Elvis would be proud. Oh my goodness.
Karen's here. Hi, Karen.
Hi, Karen. All right. So this one I thought was really strange, and I don't know. This happened in Brazil on November 10th, 2008. A funeral procession was on its way to a cemetery, and a woman named Marciana Silva Bercelos, 67, was a passenger in the hearse carrying the body of her husband, who had died the day before. Suddenly, a speeding car struck the back of the hearse, dislodged the casket by accident, and the coffin hurtled forward and smashed into the back of her neck, killing her
Oh,
instantly.
that's terrible.
Yeah. Could you imagine
Wow.
that? Getting killed by your own husband's coffin?
Ah, that's nuts.
It
He was like,
is.
how dare you try to live without me?
Yeah. I also included Jane Mansfield's death because it's kind of
It
very
is
much this. So I'm gonna, for those of you who've never heard of how Jane Mansfield died, she was a famous actress from the olden days.
one of the blonde
Um,
bombshells.
yeah. In the early morning hours of June 29th, 1967, Jane Mansfield left Biloxi, Mississippi, driving towards New Orleans. The actress had just performed at a Biloxi nightclub, and she needed to reach New Orleans for a television appearance scheduled for the next day. On the long drive, Mansfield sat in front with a driver, Ronald Harrison, and her boyfriend, Samuel Brody, and her three children were asleep in the back seat. A little after 2 a.m., the 1966 Buick Electra crashed into the back of a trailer truck, instantly killing everyone in the front seat. Harrison didn't see the truck until it was too late because of a nearby machine pumping out thick fog to kill mosquitoes. So if you don't live in a mosquito-infested area, we do it around here too. A truck drives by once a month through the summer months, spraying fog into the air that kills out the mosquitoes. And unfortunately, there was one running right beside the highway that he drove through, so he didn't even see this truck in front of
Goodness.
him. Yeah. When the Buick crashed into the truck, it slid underneath the back of the trailer, shearing off the entire top of the car. Police rushed to the scene to find Mansfield's three children still alive in the back seat. The accident instantly killed the three adults in the front seat and also killed Mansfield's dog. She was declared dead on the scene. According to police, Mansfield suffered a gruesome, though near instantaneous death. The police report taken after the accident states that the entire upper portion of the female's head was completely severed off. So she basically got decapitated right about there.
Yeah.
The photos you can find for it were very famous at the time, or infamous, I should say, because Mansfield actually wore blonde wigs. She wasn't a natural blonde. And when it hit, her wig flew out the window, and everyone assumed that was the top of her head because a lot of people didn't realize that she wore wigs. So if you go and look up those photos now, you'll see them, and it does look gory. That's not her head. It's not outside on the ground with the wig. Just so you know.
It's interesting too, because at that time, if you notice on the back of any semi now, there's a bar that runs across the bottom that has the red and white stripes that reflect. Mm-hmm. That's called a Mansfield bar because of them. That keeps any cars that hit from sliding underneath a vehicle like that. So, and, Jane Mansfield, one of her children grew up to be very famous too. And it's actress Mariska Hargitay from CSI.
Yep. That one's a very famous one. Mm-hmm. Let's see here. I have a few more that we can do before we play notebook games. This one happened in India. A homeless man who was urinating on the train tracks died in a freak accident when he was hit by a flying cow. So, Shivdayal Sharma, 82, died instantly after an express train hit a grazing cow and launched it 100 feet into the air, coming down and landing directly on Sharma, killing him instantly.
Oh my goodness. What are the odds?
So, maybe not pee on the train tracks. I'm just saying.
And look for flying cows. We have cows. Uh-oh. Oh no. Am I froze?
Uh-oh.
Am I froze?
I don't know. What happened? I think we both froze. That was weird.
But we're
back. Maybe we shouldn't laughed at the cow.
Maybe not.
Oh my goodness.
Rick said we have cows, famous from Twister. Enzo, Steak and Shake.
I can't get it to pull up.
I don't know if I'm
Enzo says Steak and Shake.
Yes.
Weird. I'm glitching a little bit.
I am too. Right. That's not good.
It's not. Let's see here. Oh my gosh. Okay, so this one was a strange one. I found 2 spaghetti stories. Did you find any of the spaghetti stories?
I did not, other than no, I didn't actually.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so a chef called Juan Ruz died during a hurricane at his job. The windows broke and everything not too heavy started flying around with immense speed. And because he didn't take cover out of his drunkenness, he was drunk, he got impaled by a load of spaghetti moving so fast that it shot through his lungs, his heart, and his liver.
Wow.
Yeah. Now, oddly enough, I also found a second story about spaghetti. It involved a college kid somewhere, and I can't say that this is true because I couldn't find the original story. So take this with a grain of salt, or a stick of spaghetti, if you will. This kid was at college. He was making spaghetti for dinner. He had his pot on the stove with boiling water, and he just chucked in the hard pasta to cook when his oven exploded. It was a gas oven and exploded, and it blew it back at him. And it wasn't the explosion that killed him or even the boiling water. It was a single piece of spaghetti that went through his eye and lodged in his brain and killed him instantly.
Wow.
Yeah. So, spaghetti, who knew?
Dang, that's nuts. Well, you hear in tornadoes and stuff that like a stalk of wheat, they'll find it shoved completely through a wall of a barn and things like that. So yeah.
Tornadoes can do crazy things, and obviously hurricanes can too.
Yeah.
Get killed by spaghetti.
Dang.
Rick says death by pasta.
Sounds like a really bad name of a cozy mystery book.
Yeah. Did you hear about the drunk chef? He passed away.
Oh, boo.
No? Okay.
That was pretty good, actually.
Oh,
Pasta
Enzo
is
said
very
pasta.
unhealthy. Yes, it is.
It is. It is.
It'll
All
kill you.
right. So this one I have is exploding gum.
Oh,
2009, a student was killed while his chewing gum exploded. His name was Lycanos, I think. He had a habit of dipping his chewing gum in citric acid to increase the gum's sour taste. On his work table, police found about 100 grams of unidentified explosive powder, which he used for chemistry studies. It resembled citric acid, and it is thought that he accidentally confused the two. The explosive was found to be 4 times stronger than TNT, and the explosion was possibly triggered either by reacting with Lycanos' saliva or the pressure exerted by him chewing on the gum and the explosive powder at the same time. Blew his head
jeez.
off.
That is nuts.
I know.
These are
It's
crazy.
terrible. They are. All right, let me see. I think I've got maybe one left. Let me see. Okay. Death by paper mache dinosaur.
Oh, there's your
Yeah.
dinosaur. Well, no, that was for Paracon. I was going to say, there's your dinosaur, Rick.
So, a man in Spain died inside a paper mache Stegosaurus statue. He'd accidentally dropped his cell phone and climbed in head first to try and reach it. He quickly became wedged around the waist. Realizing he was stuck, he flailed his legs around, attempting to get unstuck, knocking over his ladder and becoming stranded upside down. Working alone, there was no one to hear his pleas for help. He most likely lost consciousness within hours and then succumbed to a heart failure. He was found dead days later.
Dang.
Bobblegum.
Bumblegum.
Bomb. Bomblegum.
Bumblegum. That's a good one, Ian. That's crazy. You
Yeah.
know, there are a lot of, I say a lot, I don't know how many for sure, but I know I've read at least a dozen stories over the years of people trying to crawl down a uh, fireplace, down the
Yeah.
chimney, getting stuck and dying.
Yeah. Oh, there's tons of those.
Mm-hmm.
Um, that's all the ones that I kind of have written down. I know of handfuls of ones that I didn't end up going and researching because it was just getting to be too much.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Charlotte Fox, she was famous for being one of the women who climbed Mount Everest several times, and she actually made it out of several um, uh, accidents that happened on Everest. She managed to like escape death like 3 or 4 times, and then she ended up dying a few years later. She got a little tipsy after a party one night, tripped and fell over the balustrade on the top of her staircase, and she lived in a 4-story mansion. She fell 4 stories to her death, and she was a
Oh my
professional
gosh.
climber. Like what a way to go.
Irony. Yeah, absolute
Exactly.
irony.
Yeah. Um and of course, there's the famous Putty Cave one where the dude climbed into the little area upside down and got stuck and edged.
Yeah.
So, oh my gosh.
Rika
But
just
like,
said that caves also, so yeah. Yeah.
yeah, like we were talking at the beginning, like you could go on and on and on and on with these. If you want to take a deep dive, go hit Reddit. So many people have stories about stuff that happened within their own families. They were like, oh,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, well, Uncle so and so, he tripped and this happened and this happened and that happened. And then my dog died. Just crazy stories like that.
Some nutty ones for sure.
Some nutty ones. All right. Well,
Hi,
it's almost
Julie.
8:40. Do we want to go ahead and just play some notebook games and then finish out?
Absolutely. Yep.
All right.
So hopefully, whoever's freezing, I don't
Books.
know if it's me or Jess, one of us keeps freezing, and I can't tell
Oh,
who it is.
no. I grabbed 6 notebooks. So we're going to do 6 this time. So everybody knows how to play the game. Pick 1 through 6. Pick 1 through 100 on pages, and I'll read what's ever on that page. Oh my
By
goodness.
Foundries. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, let's get away from death for a while.
So it's Jess. It's Jess that's
It's
freezing.
me.
Oh no.
Okay.
Yeah, I can't tell. Kids. Okay, Ginger's first. Notebook 6, page 61. And hopefully she will unfreeze.
Uh-oh. Am I back?
Yep, you're back.
Okay. Everybody, like, talk amongst yourselves for just a minute. I'm going to go check on something real quick. See it
We
if
can do
maybe it's on
that.
my end.
Cool, cool. So hopefully. Oh, now you can do it, Ian, with your 666. Nice. So yeah, this was, when we were coming home from Kentucky, I was shocked that Jess had never watched the movies before. And I'm like, absolutely, you have to see these because these are crazy and these will make you scared of absolutely everything in the world. So yeah, I am a little more on edge, especially on the highways and stuff like that. But it does make you pay a bit of attention. And, when we first started, I was naming off some things. One of them was nail guns, uh, deaths by nail guns. And in this particular case, it wasn't a nail gun that caused the death. Well, it wasn't even a death, actually. But this was my dad's boss in Joplin, Missouri, probably about 20 years ago now. And they had a lake house, and he was out building a new deck on it by himself. And he was in his 60s. And while he was out there, he nail gunned his thumb to the deck. And he couldn't reach his phone, and there was nobody around. And dude, this is absolutely horrifying. Ended up having to pull his thumb off of the nail so he could get help. And that is one of those that just cringes me out every time. So,
Ew.
telling grody stories while you're gone, Jess.
That's all right. I think I figured it out. Mike was running internet elsewhere in the house. I don't think he realized I was still running.
Oh, Enzo said, I thought you were going to have stories of people that got bad vibes for flying or took a sick day on 9/11. There were a lot.
Mm-hmm.
There were absolute lot. And collapsing
Yeah.
bridges is a big one, especially
Yeah.
with Mothman, Silver Bridge collapse.
And asked for us to. Am I still glitching?
Yeah, just a little bit.
Uh-oh.
So
Okay.
we'll try it.
In asked if we could do a show on like people who had like missing time or some reason didn't make it to 9/11 or the Murrah
Yes.
building. I have that written down so we can actually do a show on that. We'll try to get to that. We have like 4 shows coming up we have planned, and then we'll see if we can swing that one in there.
That's a good
It's
idea.
a super interesting one.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Notebook 6, page 61 is on Emily Saji and the Doppelganger. So, 1845, 32-year-old French teacher Emily Saji was teaching at an all-girls school in Latvia. Her first doppelganger appearance was in front of 13 students. Her doppelganger appeared right beside her while she wrote on the chalkboard, copying every movement like a mirror image pantomime. The doppelganger could often be seen in one part of the school, while Saji would be in a completely different area. One noteworthy incident was witnessed by all 42 students, who were all assembled for a lesson and could plainly see Saji through a large window outside working in the school's garden. When the teacher got up to leave the room for a moment, the doppelganger materialized in the teacher's chair, while Saji could still be plainly seen, still in the garden. One of the students approached the doppelganger and inexplicably passed her hand right through it. Several moments later, it faded out and disappeared. Interestingly, Saji never saw the doppelganger herself, but said she would often feel extremely fatigued until the doppelganger disappeared. The entity became a normal fixture at the school, and as families began removing their daughters, the headmistress had no choice but to fire Saji. A famous doppelganger case.
That's wild.
Yeah.
It's a good one, though.
Yeah. All
Okay.
right. What do we got next?
Next is Tony with Notebook
Oh,
6, page 14.
all right. Easy enough. 14. Okay. This is on the Borrego Triangle. This is in Southern California in the Anza Borrego Desert State Park. This is actually a high strangeness area. It's known for Sasquatch sightings, UFO encounters, and ghosts.
Nice.
And on this page is part of the legend of the Borrego Sandman. Now, the Sandman is basically a white Bigfoot, just so you all know. It's recorded to be 8 foot tall, around 400 pounds, covered in shaggy white fur, red glowing eyes, and is bipedal. In Native American the local Cahuilla people spoke of hairy devils, foul-smelling, man-like beasts that roamed the desert, lurking in the shadows. Early European settlers from the 1800s reported strange ape-like creatures in the area. And I start a listing of historical sightings and encounters. The first one was in 1876. A prospector named Turner Helm came face to face with the Sandman near Dead Man's Hole. The creature was highly aggressive and advanced at him in an aggressive manner. He attempted to communicate with it in several different languages, but to no avail. He then brandished his rifle and scared the Sandman away. It goes on. There were other encounters in 1888, 1939, 1964. They started finding prints around 14 inches long, 19 inches wide. Let's see here. 1968, there was another encounter. 1962 is the most important footprint cast ever taken. It's currently on display at the International Cryptozoology Museum in Portland, Maine. It was cast by a retired police officer. It's also 14 inches long and 19 inches wide. It's a very clear print that shows 4 distinct toes. And I have a little note to myself if you all are interested in this craziness. It was featured in 2019 on an episode of Mysteries at the Museum on the Travel Channel. Yeah. And there's a lot more to it, but, I'm just reading the page. So, and there's all sorts of hauntings and weird lights out that way. It's a nutty area.
Awesome.
666. You guys are gonna eat up the 6th one.
They're taking advantage.
They're taking advantage. It's okay. This is on the Montana cattle mutilations flap from 1975 to 1976. We're gonna get back into the gross stuff.
Oh, yay. Apparently we're not supposed to do the gross stuff because you froze again for a second. Hopefully you'll come back because that's a really funny look on your face. Oh, no. There you are.
Am I back? Okay.
You're back. You had a really funny look on your face, though. You're like...
That's all right. Okay. North central Montana, encompassing 5 counties, reports of cattle mutilations, huge UFOs, giant hairy humanoids, fleets of black unmarked helicopters are all the reports. The first thing happened September 22nd. Strange circumstances. Under the udder and sex organs were removed. Cuts had precise serrated edges, like pinking shears were used. I thought that one was interesting.
That's wild. Huh. You don't normally hear of them showing up with like pinking shear marks. So hopefully you'll be back in a second again.
No.
You disappeared for a second, Jess. Are you back? No? Maybe? So darn. Yeah, you're glitching again.
Oh, man.
I know.
All right. Hold on a minute. One more try. If this doesn't cut it, we'll just have to eke through. I just dropped my notebook.
Oh, no. That was a really bad sounding crash there. So Jessie explained to me the other day how she has her studio set up, and if you'll notice, her workspace is actually right behind her, and she basically where she sets for podcasting, there is a closet right there, and she normally keeps tubs in there. But what she's done, she's kind of rearranged things. So when she's doing a podcast, she has the table that her laptop sits on. That she just pushes into that closet and she can pull it right out. So it's worked out really good, but it is a tight little fit in her studio. So absolute genius on making the best out of a very small area. Let's look at our comments here. Julie, I'm sorry to hear about your friend, your pet, I'm assuming. That's sad. I'm so sorry. There you are. You're back.
We'll give it another shot. We'll see. We'll see how it goes.
I was telling them about your studio setup and how you have fixed the closet to where you can just scoot your table into it and pull it out.
Yeah. I'm in a little space.
Excellent job you've done of making the most out of a very small space.
Well, thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. Back to the cattle mutilations page. Yum.
We got you up to pinking shears. Is okay. What we heard.
The second one happened October 20th of that year. A left jaw was skinned off the cow, missing tongue and right eye. Cuts were accompanied by burns like that made of a laser. So now we're getting back into the laser cuts. Oh. Weeks after, a bull calf was found, testicles gone, left in the field where it died. Now this one is super strange. The rancher called about 10 days later asking for help removing the body that was now covered in a filmy white substance that stretched from the carcass to the surrounding ground like a cobweb. Samples evaluated later revealed a type of petroleum distillate.
Interesting.
Ew.
Yeah,
super weird.
Exactly.
Mutilations continued steadily, many happening within hours of each other on multiple ranches across the 5-county area, included strange incisions, minute puncture wounds, shear cuts.
Oh no.
Bodies. None were found with any blood. And the next page goes on, so after the cattle mutilations, they started having UFO sightings. They had 127 mystery black helicopter sightings.
Wow.
A gigantic hotel-sized egg-shaped craft was reported. They found 6 small UFOs in a field before they flew off. Then they started getting the Bigfoot in, and these strange, weird black creatures that were leaving behind 3-toed prints.
Huh. That's very Hellier Goblin-esque.
It is. And it all started to peter out, and then the last thing happened in May 1976, and then the flap was over, and the area has been quiet since. So
interesting.
Yeah.
Enzo said in time travel lore, the predestination paradox says that no matter what you do, you can't overtly change historical events. You save JFK in Dallas, and he dies on the way home. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
Are all these stories of time correcting itself, no matter how bizarre?
Maybe.
Yeah. And that makes sense if you really think about it, because that's kind of what the whole Final Destination thing was built around, was the correction of time, and, death getting its 2 cents, death getting what was owed kind of thing. So, yeah, I believe you are correct with that, sir. Okay, so the next one, Julie, with book 4, page 9.
Yeah. This one is on the vanishing children, and to the side, I put footsteps in the snow. So this is 3 stories that I gathered that were incredibly similar. November 1878 in Quincy, Illinois, Charles Ashmore, age 16, was sent to fetch water from the well. He didn't return. His father went out to look for him. He followed his tracks in the snow, but the tracks ended abruptly. A few days later, his mother heard his voice along with other family members and neighbors, but he was never seen again. So, December 24th, 1889, in South Bend, Indiana, Oliver Larch, age 11, was sent to fetch water from the well. After a short while, his parents reported hearing him yell, "Help, they've got me." The cry seemed to be coming from overhead instead of out by the well. His father went out to look for him. Halfway to the well, about 75 feet from the house, the boy's track ended abruptly, and he was never seen again. And then December 24th, 1909, so another December 24th, in Rhayader, Wales. Ian, help me with that one. Rhayyader. Oliver Thomas, age 11, sent to fetch water from the well, was heard to cry out. When his family went to look for him, they followed his tracks, which ended abruptly in the snow, and he was never seen again. So it's just 3 across, 2 in the U.S. and 1 overseas, and it was nearly identical.
Mm-hmm. Ian said, didn't 200 cows just disappear in Colorado recently? And Enzo said, maybe. Yes, they did. He just read the story today. So I hadn't heard that one. That's interesting.
I hadn't heard that one either. 3. Okay.
The road trip is going to be thick. Okay, let's see. Next is Rick with book 3, page 51.
Yeah, got it pulled up. All right, this one is on the Kitchen Lake Witch in Oklahoma. I think Pam might know this one. The Kitchen Lake Witch.
Yes.
Yeah. At the end of the air depot at 119 are the remains of the foundation of a burned wood house and still partially standing stone chimney, locally known as the House of the Kitchen Lake Witch. Reportedly, the house was burnt down by two boys in the early 1960s. The witch reportedly died in the fire, but not before cursing the 2 boys and the lake and surrounding area. A secondary legend to it. One of the boys took the curse head on and was doomed to become the Kitchen Lake monster until the witch's return. So this is one of our funky urban legends that you can't find anywhere else. It's so great. Part of the curse entails the burning of anything left within 2 miles of the burned out house, including nearby Kitchen Lake Bridge, where people claim to still find piles of things that campers, hunters, hikers, and visitors to the lake have left behind, gathered there by the witch, and burned. Everything left behind is subject to her revenge, including clothing, shoes, toys, bikes, coolers, fishing equipment, boats, and even cars. The witch also still haunts the area. And I'm going to go ahead and continue because this was a good one. Phenomenon include small fires that appear and disappear, cars stalling, headlights failing, sounds of footsteps, ear popping, nosebleeds, smells of smoke, and strange feelings of being watched or followed while in the 2-mile zone. So the Kitchen Lake monster part of it, one of the 2 boys, the 2 boys that set fire to the home of the Kitchen Lake Witch, she perished in the fire, but not before casting a curse on the boys. One boy was standing in front of the other, and so took on the entire curse himself. The curse banished him to the lake, where he was disfigured into a strange-looking half-human, half-monster creature, doomed to haunt the waters in nearby woods, until the witch makes her return 100 years later, but only if he captured enough souls to trade to the witch to get back his own. Local fishermen report seeing a strange creature in the water that will try to capsize their boats, and strange bubbles popping up from the middle of the lake that once break the surface, release the sound of a boy screaming. A strange monster has been reported in the surrounding woods. Claims include feelings and sounds of being followed, the smell of stale lake water, and the voice of a boy saying, "Help." So that's our Kitchen Lake legend. Isn't it fun?
It's a good one.
I love that one. It is a good one.
It's a good one. Very cool. Yeah.
All right.
The last one is Sharon.
Notebook 5, page 30.
Page 30.
Okay.
While you're pulling that up, Enzo found the article, 187 cows missing, mostly calves, since the end of November. No carcasses found. Authorities are stumped. $10,000 reward for info leading to an answer. Dang, that's
Ooh,
wild. That's a lot of calves. A lot of money
it
missing.
is. All right. This last one is on the Harrisonville, Ohio Falling Stones from 1901. On the evening of October 13th, 1901, a small boulder came crashing through the window of Zach Dye's home. No person was spotted nearby. In a matter of days, the entire town was purportedly besieged by stones and boulders falling from a clear sky. Baffled by the origin of the stones, the townspeople gathered all the men and boys of Harrisonville to ensure the phenomenon was not being perpetrated by a band of mischief makers. However, the stones continued to fall. Several days later, after a full week of the phenomena, the stone rain ceased as abruptly as it began. And this one came from excerpts from the Buffalo Express, which was their local paper. I think this was part of the like Ripley's Believe It or Not kind of stories we were doing with
Oh,
Mark.
could be. That makes
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool.
All
Well, that
right.
was a crazy show.
It was crazy, and I'm sorry I was glitching out. I don't know what was going on with that craziness.
It wasn't the majority of the show. It was just a very short amount of time, so it wasn't
Yeah.
bad. You got to
All
hear me
right.
be completely awkward. So anyway,
Yeah. All right. So, do we have anything? Did we want to pull up Pat's
yep.
little ad that we did? So, in 2 weeks, which will be the 23rd, we're going to have a show with Pat Fitzhugh. There it is. This dude does a little bit of everything. He specializes in Bell Witch. He's also been on several TV shows. I have him listed there. It's kind of hard to see. He is one of the most interesting fellows that Pam and I have ever met. It's actually who we went to go see when we went to Kentucky. We were talking about the trip back. Um, he has some insane stories that hopefully we can wheedle out of him live here in 2 weeks.
I hope
Talk a
so.
little bit, yeah, talk a little bit about the Bell Witch. We're going to talk a little bit about his Dixie Hauntings book and just his life in general. He's just extraordinarily interesting. So,
He
and he's a
is.
hoot and a half. So join us then to meet Pat. And I think that's it on that, isn't it?
I think so. Yeah.
All
I think you
right.
guys will
Okay.
like
Well,
him. We've had him on a muck before. It's
yeah.
really great guy.
He is a great guy. So, thank you everyone who hung out in the chats with us tonight. We appreciate it. Oh, thank you, Chris.
Krista, now I have way more things to worry about, but great
Yeah,
show.
maybe be careful around spaghetti and stuff after you get off of our
Absolutely.
podcast here. Maybe just be a little careful. I'm just saying. And I'm sorry if we grossed you out. Gross
Sorry, not
myself up
sorry.
just a little bit. Sorry, not sorry. Anywho, remember to catch us here in 2 weeks on the 23rd. The 23rd, I think it is.
I think it is too.
Yeah, live at 7 Central, like usual. Remember to send us your stories. We still love to hear them. And I think that's it. We don't really have any research books to post.
No, we don't. These were all
Yeah.
just stories and funky things. So yeah.
It was. But we had fun. Thank you,
We did.
everybody. Remember, keep it strange, or keep it weird, keep it strange, and remember, it's all connected. Good night.
Good night, everybody.